Meteorologist Nick Allard.
It is raining lightly and 50 degrees now in downtown Seattle. I'm Ursula Royteen.
Download our app to listen on your smartphone. KIRO Radio 97.3 FM. News and talk. Powered by the Pacific Northwest.
The Big Lead is brought to you by 3010 Weight Loss for Life.
The Dori Monson Show on KIRO Radio. This is The Big Lead.
Coming to you from the Carter Subaru Studios. Also streaming on Facebook Live. Welcome. Hey, Ursula, how are you today?
I'm doing great.
Good.
How are you?
How you doing?
Doing fantastic.
Awesome. Everybody's great today. Love this.
What got into you?
You know what? Often I come in here kind of filled with some righteous rage about a waste of tax dollars.
Uh-huh.
And I go off on some rant about government. But then occasionally, government does something that fills my heart and my soul, and it makes me so happy to pay tax dollars because I see how fantastically they're being spent. Yes, and this is one of those days where I want to give a special shout-out to the Seattle Department of Transportation, headed by Sam Zimbabwe, if that is his real name. Because they have just launched a brand new campaign. Have you seen this?
No.
Yeah. It's called their SpokesSalmonSal campaign. And they have a person, and she has a salmon puppet on her hand, and she goes and talks to people about how wondrous transportation is and how they can make it better. And I just thought, this is why I pay taxes right here. This is why I love coming to work and having them carve off a portion of my take-home pay to give to local government because of things like SpokesSalmonSal.
Do my gills look good in this?
Sal, we're rolling.
What? Seattle rush hour. It's like spawning season all year round. Our city's growing, and getting to and from downtown just isn't what it used to be. Hey.
Hey.
You look like you're trying to find the fastest route home.
I am. I have a long commute.
Just imagine.
So then they talk to people who pretend like they're surprised because this woman comically has a salmon puppet at the end of her arm, and it's like some magical world all of a sudden.
And she's kind of changed her voice a little bit.
A little bit, yeah, to make it even more comical and more worthy of our tax dollars. And so then all these people pretend like they're surprised by this because who's ever seen not just a salmon out of water, but a talking salmon? It is hilarious.
Everyone in Seattle flipped their trip and commuted car-free once a week. Do you know how much less pollution Seattle would have if everyone worked from home one day a week?
I don't know. How much?
How would I know? I'm a fish.
Oh, man. Oh, this is good stuff.
Have you ever seen the lines of Spawn? It's a mess. It looks like I-5. Hey!
She's got a million of them. It's like going to the Catskills.
How was traffic today?
It's horrible.
Yeah, traffic. I hate.
Oh, and it's edgy, too. That'll get the kids to watch because this salmon also swears. That was a clever touch.
Can I say, why's your friend paying for parking? Doesn't your friend know you can both ride the bus? It's true. Have you considered biking to work once a week?
Have we heard enough, do you think, of SpokesSalmonSal?
Who came up with this idea?
The government.
No.
Yes,
What-
they said
what creative
we have all
agency?
Of this money. I know, and I'm happy for the person who got the gig doing the voice of SpokesSalmonSal because it's probably, a kid who's just out of college, maybe went to the UW drama school, needs something on the resume.
I think that sounds like an older woman's voice.
It could be. It could be a smoker. Oh, that'd be a smoked salmon. Hey, if you want to use that, you can, Seattle Department of Transportation. So, again, it fills my heart. And this rivals now, because you may recall a few years ago, the Washington State Department of Health, they launched that campaign to try to get all of us to wash our hands. Do you remember that one?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Wash your Hansington? So I'm
Yes.
trying to remember. It's been a while, so I got to play that one again.
We love soap so much we scrub for fun. We are Wash Your Hansington. Yes, we are Wash Your Hansington.
That one was a good expenditure of tax dollars, too. I remember I scrubbed like a surgeon after that came out. So I guess I'll just make this a little online poll with our listeners. What do you consider a better expenditure of your tax dollars? Is it SpokesSalmonSal?
I'm talking to you. Did you drive to work today?
Yeah,
How long did that take you?
an hour.
An hour? Try swimming 600 miles just to get a date. You ever think about taking a ferry?
Stop, you're killing me.
Do you think this is better than that? Remember Say Wah?
Well, I just asked Nicole seconds before we went on the air to see if we could find audio of Say Wah. That was when we were rebranding our state. Well, wait a second. I got it for my online poll. So SpokesSalmonSal.
Wash Your Hansingtonians are always friendly and germ-free. They love to give high fibers, not high fevers.
That was a good one, too. So which do you consider to be a better expenditure of your tax dollars, your hard-earned money? SpokesSalmonSal for the Department of Transportation, or from years ago, Wash Your Hansington. And we'll keep looking for Say Wah. I couldn't remember if there was a jingle that accompanied Say Wah.
That one cost about $442,000.
Money well spent, because that caught on like wildfire. And I don't hear anybody call the state Washington anymore. It's everybody around the country just refers to it as Say Wah since then. So anyway, I'm just really happy today, and glad I'm working hard. Glad I can send some of my paycheck to the government. They can do really creative things. Up next in the big lead.
The big lead. I sense a Dori rant coming on.
Speaking of great expenditures of tax dollars, remember a few years ago when the accused child rapist, mayor of Seattle, Ed Murray, he wanted to spend $66,000 to paint 11 crosswalks on Capitol Hill and First Hill in rainbow colors. Well, you may remember, I should have done this as an I told you so, because I said, do all the colors in the rainbow offer the same contrast that just white on asphalt offers? And I said, what happens if somebody's injured or killed in one of these crosswalks because the driver didn't see it as well as the reflective white? And everybody said, oh, Monson, you're just looking for trouble where it doesn't exist. Well, the Federal Highway Administration and the U.S. DOT has told the city of Seattle that the crosswalks are statistically far more unsafe than the ones that are maintained by the federal government. The SDOT says their safety performance is phenomenal, the rainbow crosswalks, but it was just a big waste of money. It was making something that's pretty utilitarian and meant just to increase safety for people crossing the street into a social justice symbol, which, of course, is all that we do around here. We don't do things to do well for humans. We do things to feel good, even if it makes things more dangerous. And so the feds have informed them that if Seattle applies for federal funding in an intersection with a multicolored crosswalk, they would ask the city to remove the markings and replace them with standard crosswalk markings. And so, we're trying to decide. We went with the punk ska over the rainbow.
Why are there so many songs about rainbows? And what's on the other side? Rainbows are visions.
So that was
but only
$66,000 well spent there, too. So I have nothing but good news. We had a debate, too, before the show. Nicole wanted the Kermit the Frog version of the Rainbow Connection. I wanted, of course.
Who said that wishes would be her?
Karen Carpenter's version.
I know, but Kermit takes it back, man.
Yeah, but Karen Carpenter's voice of an angel. That's the voice of an angel.
It's a good version. I agree.
Yeah, crying out loud.
Glad we went with the punk version of Somewhere Over the Rainbow.
They used to use that in HBO's Taxi Cab Confessions all the time, which was a show I really enjoyed. Okay, so your tax dollars hard at work. Up next in the Big Lead.
The Big Lead, Big Local.
On a very serious note, we've been talking a lot about the Initiative 976. I don't know that I've ever been so positive and supportive of an initiative as I am this one. This would reduce car tabs to $30. It would save you and me billions of dollars collectively. Billions. Take it away from the government that maybe doesn't always spend our money so wisely. And yesterday at the Seattle City Council, I don't care what you personally think of Tim Eyman, but he had 1 minute during the public comment because the Seattle City Council, of course, voted unanimously to take a no on 976 position, because anything that takes money away from government and returns it to hardworking, tax-paying citizens, anything like that makes government officials sick to their stomach. And so forget about what you feel about Eyman. I want you to listen to what he said to the city council and rebut it if you can.
I think that just the basic point I'd want to make is if it was a private company that was gouging people like this, taking more money than they're really entitled to, the government would shut them down. But because it's the government itself taking more money than there should from the taxpayers, all we're getting is excuses. You're saying it doesn't matter whether or not it's dishonest. It doesn't matter if it's artificially inflated because we're spending the money that we shouldn't be taking from you on really good stuff. And what we're dealing with is we have a state that has a $3.5 billion tax surplus, which is more than enough money to backfill any affected government program, get rid of the dishonest tax, use the surplus in order to be able to backfill the affected programs, and transition to a system that is a heck of a lot more fair, that under 976, they have to get voter approval, and they have to use Kelley Blue Book or the actual value of a vehicle. So that if a $10,000 car is going to be taxed, it's going to be taxed at $10,000. That seems reasonable to me. What I find just inconceivable, and I'm out of time, is that you can't recognize the fact that people are extremely upset about this, and they're very upset because their elected officials aren't telling them and acknowledging that it's a problem. Instead, you're saying, just take it because we're using the money on really good stuff. And I think most people think if it's dishonest, you shouldn't be imposing it all, regardless of what you spend the money on.
Okay. What do you disagree with there? We are being taxed on a phantom overvaluation of our cars. I've been hearing from people, they've been texting me. Just got my tab renewal for a 2014 Chevy Cruze, $390. And I hear these stories every day. If you're a working class person, you cannot afford to give phantom tax dollars to an organization like Sound Transit and to everything else they spend it on. Mostly on bureaucracy, not on anything meaningful, not on anything that actually helps. And as you heard, they have a more than $3 billion surplus in Olympia. They could return some of those billions to us by just cutting our car tabs to $30. Will they do it? And, of course, here are the council members after Eyman spoke.
Seattle could lose up to $175,000 hours of bus service in 2020.
We have to have this revenue to make sure that our economy functions.
It is absolutely critical that the state's voters reject 976.
We have to have this revenue to make sure our economy functions. So if they do a tiny tax cut by giving us a few $100 back on our car tabs, our economy will no longer function, according to the economic illiterates on the Seattle City Council. So I wonder how they voted when they were deciding if they should oppose this initiative.
All those in favor of supporting Resolution 31911, please say aye. 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 Opposed? The ayes have it. The resolution has passed, and the chair will sign it.
What? It was unanimous opposing 976? There wasn't any voice of dissent on the Seattle City Council? That's shocking to me. I thought Seattle was a place where we welcome diverse viewpoints. And I will say, Essex Porter asked Iman a good question at KIRO 7 News.
Well, I think voters should trust themselves and look at...
Oh, and the question was, why should voters trust you? And Iman said...
Well, I think voters should trust themselves and look at the bills that they're getting for their car tabs and see that they're dishonest.
Yeah. I mean, this isn't about Iman. This is about whether you want to keep paying, a valuation of $18,000 for a car that's actually worth $10,000 to the government. If you think the government should be able to continue to overtax us compared to the value of our vehicles. And, yesterday, I played for you the cuts of just how absolutely dishonest the No on 976 campaign is. And one of them featured a Washington State Patrol trooper.
There were 560 fatalities on our roads in 2017. So anytime there's a measure on the ballot that impacts our highways, I take a close look. Tim Iman's initiative 976 is dangerous because it threatens road safety projects all over Washington.
Really, we've been paying the second highest gas tax in the nation forever. And you guys haven't been able to keep our roads maintained? And I also, a lot of people have written into me about this State Patrol sergeant who was initially identified as a Washington State Patrol trooper, which is not allowed. Troopers cannot identify themselves as being with the Washington State Patrol and take a political stand. And I was thinking, if somebody had a yes on 976 bumper sticker and got pulled over by the State Patrol sergeant, would she treat him fairly? As politically divisive as things are in our country, would she be able to treat someone, because she's taking a public position now, and she's wearing a phony badge. A bunch of listeners pointed that out to me in this commercial. She's an actual State Patrol sergeant, but it's just a very deceitful campaign. Why? Because billions of our dollars are at stake. Vote yes on 976. That is your big lead.
The Big Lead on KIRO Radio.
Ursula's going to check the news, and then I cannot believe what I'm seeing and hearing from the NBA on this China thing, and I'm more resolved than ever that I do not want the NBA back in Seattle. I'll tell you exactly why next on the Dori Monson Show.
This hour of the Dori Monson Show is brought to you by Insulation Northwest.